A little more than an hour now. Senators will begin debate on whether witnesses should be called. It could go as 4 hours, although it's almost certain at this point Republicans do have the votes now to block any call to hear John Bolton or others testify. And it's conceivable, as the 100 voters weigh these decisions, this entire proceeding could be concluded before the day is over, like by midnight. California Democrat Kamala Harris joins us right now. She serves on the Intel Committee and Judiciary Committee. She joins us now. She's just come from the news conference held there by the Senate Democrats. What do you make of the Democrat strategy right now? What is it? Is it to ask for the Chief Justice to intervene and call for witnesses? Is the Chief Justice to break a tie if Murkowski goes for witnesses? What is the strategy for Democrats?
Well, Chris, we'll talk more about strategy when I go into the caucus meeting at noon. But right now, the strategy is pretty clear, which is to attempt to compel our Republican colleagues to do the right thing and vote in favor of witnesses coming forward. You know, the tragedy of this is that the American public, the vast majority of Americans, Democrats and Republicans, want us to produce and to hear from the new witnesses. And the only place that this is being debated is in the United States Senate. The rest of America knows that you cannot have a fair trial without the production of available witnesses who have relevant evidence. And so this is the tragedy of the moment, but there is still time to attempt to compel and persuade Republican senators to do the right thing. But I'll tell you also, from the beginning, and this has been a short trial by design, by McConnell's design. And from the beginning, they have been clear about their long game, and that is to, at the end of this, get an acquittal. McConnell told us this is where it's going to end up. But here's the point. You cannot have a true acquittal if there's not been a fair trial. And
do you think witnesses would have made a difference? Because I'm looking at what Alexander said last night in his statement. He basically said, to use a lawyer's term, I stipulate the facts here. There was a deal. It may have been a dirty deal even, he sort of implied, but it didn't rise to the level of inappropriateness required for removal.
Chris, a trial makes a difference. A trial makes a difference. That's the issue before us. Are we having a fair trial or not? That's the issue. Exactly. The issue is that this has not been a fair trial. There has been no production of these new witnesses that are available. This will end up being, if it goes as we expect, the only impeachment hearing that through its completion presented no live witnesses. And put this in context, only the third time in the history of our nation, of our republic,
let's talk about the
being impeached. But Chris, here's the thing. Only the third time. For each impeachment trial, on average, 33 witnesses have been presented in the Senate trial. And this impeachment of this president involves the most serious charges, which was the very fear that our framers had, that there would be entanglement, foreign entanglement in our republic. That's the issue before us. Let me ask you about the drama of the political games. That is the issue before us.
Right.
Well, I hate to jump ahead, but that's what I do. And it seems to me that Trump has got his weekend plan for all of us. We know what it is. A halftime interview with the very comfortable Sean Hannity on Fox broadcast, which is not Fox News. It's the huge broadcast network that will be covering the Super Bowl. Then the Super Bowl with Trump, I don't know, finding a nice seat in the middle, smiling with Melania. And then a State of the Union address where he's lapping up the applause from the Republican side of the aisle, like he's a victorious Roman general coming into the city, with Nancy Pelosi sitting behind him. Now, she did her best. Everybody thinks she did great, and Adam Schiff. But what's the counter-dramatization by the Democrats? What are you going to say in the face of that show that could be taking Trump's numbers up to 48 or 49% by the end of the week?
You know what, we'll deal with that when we get there, but I do believe you are right that if this ends up as we think, that is exactly what he will do. But I'm going to tell you something. He cannot get away with, and none of us should allow him to prance around saying he's been exonerated when there's not been a fair trial. I'll repeat myself. There can be no true exoneration if there's not been a fair trial, period.
Would you join a ticket to help beat him in November?
I'll deal with that when the time comes, but right now I'm focused on this impeachment trial.
Well, I'm focusing on November. Hey, it's great to have you. You look happier than you were as a candidate. I don't know what that means, but
I enjoyed being a candidate. No, both times no sleep. There you go.
Well, anyway, you look great. Thank you so much for coming on. Kamala Harris of California, a member of the Intel Every Committee. Anyway, we're just over an hour now out from the president's impeachment trial, resuming for what
multiples lower than those competitors, and so the cloud number that they throw out is.
Bolton goes back to his office, and Trump sends 2 aides to come talk to him about something Giuliani had told him. Giuliani saying that someone named Kent.
Ross, there is a manuscript. Would there be any effort to just try to obtain the manuscript? I mean, that doesn't.
The manuscript. This book is coming out. The book is coming out. Bolton is going to be selling the book. So Bolton is going to be doing interviews.
Right.
There's a ton more information that's going to come out. You know, Caitlin asked some very good questions about this meeting. I've got a lot more questions about this meeting, and we're going to get some answers.
But remember, the National Security Council has not approved this book yet.
Not yet.
So, well, I mean, not yet.
Yeah.
You trust that this will be a good faith review of this book, not an attempt to shut down the book, just like they shut down the testimony.
Wait, are you implying that the White House, that the president might put pressure on like the
I know
low-level people who are looking at this book?
You might have to go to your fainting couch.
I'm shocked that you would suggest such a thing. Oh my goodness. How will the
So that's the kind of thing that when companies hear that, they sort of, pack up and say, all right, c'est la vie, we're over this. American Airlines, United Airlines, Delta, a host of others either cutting back or entirely eliminating flights to that entire region. And keep in mind, when we think of China, there are 6 major airports throughout the country that entertain upwards of 40 million passengers a year. So if those 6 major airports are told, you know what, we think the better part of valor is not to travel there, they slow down, Chinese shoppers slow down, China slows down, business to that region slows down, and I think you can play all of this out. Grady Trimble is following the latest sign with Goldman Sachs and other financial firms saying this is clearly going to have an impact on the global economy. Grady.
Yeah, Neil, more on that in a moment, but I want to start with the airport and the airlines because that's where we are. Starting with American, they're halting service between the U.S. and mainland China starting today through at least March 27th. We learned that in the last hour or so. And we also heard from Delta Airlines, who says they're suspending all flights between the U.S. and China, including Hong Kong, starting February 6th, though. So they're going to give people the chance who are trying to leave China the possibility and the option to do that. I will note that we've been at the airport all morning, and we've noticed a lot more people than usual wearing those surgical masks. And I'm not just talking about people going to parts of Asia. We're talking about people just taking domestic flights. Do you normally wear a mask?
Not normally.
Why do you have one on today?
Just taking precautions.
For what?
Any virus that I don't want to take home to my family or have to deal with. The flu, coronavirus. So, yeah, just taking precautions.
And United Airlines is the only major airline who has so far only reduced flights, not halted them entirely. We're awaiting a decision from them to see if they might cut back even more than they already have. President Trump hinted yesterday at a possible decision regarding travel either today or tomorrow, although we have yet to hear anything from him. And the airlines are making this decision on their own after that level 4 advisory from the State Department. Just briefly, Neil, I want to mention what you touched on about Goldman Sachs. They've reduced their projection for the GDP for Q1 by 0.4% from about 2% from earlier projections down to 1.6%. So they see this impacting the U.S. GDP as a result of fewer people going to and coming from China, as well as fewer U.S. goods going to China. Neil?
All right, thank you, my friend Grady Trimble, reporting from O'Hare International Airport outside Chicago. All right, you hear what has got them worried right now, and is it this human-to-human contact issue that has now become a growing medical concern, a medical issue? Let's get to read from Dr. Julie Fisher, microbiology and immunology professor over at Georgetown. Doctor, why is that significant?
What's significant is that in the past just 2 or 3 days, we've learned that there's been transmission from cases that were infected while traveling from China to people in other countries, particularly the U.S. and Germany have both reported human-to-human transmission. In one case from the spouse, a household contact of someone who was infected and traveled from China. But in Germany, the alert that we got yesterday was a new piece of news, news that the virus had been transmitted from a traveler who did not have any symptoms at the time to others, and then apparently transmitted between people who were, again, asymptomatic.
So, Doctor, when we're told about this 14-day incubation period, where it could be up to 14 days before someone who has the virus starts exhibiting symptoms attached to the virus, that means many who've entered so many other countries would enter without any signs at all, and then suddenly start exhibiting them within the next few days. And I'm wondering whether that's a worry, and whether for a lot of countries involved, and new countries is yet to report, that's something you're sort of not looking forward to.
Well, I think that we've known from SARS and from other outbreaks that depending on screening at airports to identify people who are traveling and already symptomatic is not 100% sure to catch all of the cases that could be imported into a country. What these cases, these reports, especially the one from Germany, have really highlighted is that we know that people have already entered countries who don't have symptoms yet. As you said, the advice is it could be up to 14 days before symptoms are shown. The early data from this outbreak suggests that the incubation period, between the time between when a person is exposed and infected and when they show symptoms, is probably around 5 days. That means people may already have traveled without knowing that they're infected, either domestically or internationally.
Now, in SARS case, Doctor, I just want to be clear, it took a while before a vaccine became available. We're told by Novartis and other folks that a vaccine here could be at least a year off. I don't know what the true skinny is on that, but would that worry you?
Well, it would obviously be nice to have that kind of tool in our toolkit to be able to stop the spread of disease using a vaccine to prevent infection instead of depending on what are called non-medical interventions, things like using proper infection prevention and control, keeping people who are already infected isolated, and keeping people who may have been exposed, quarantined, or separated from others. It would be great to have that tool in our toolkit, but we won't have it for a while.
No, we won't. But Doctor, thank you very much for clarifying where we stand right now. I do appreciate it. In the meantime, I do want to take you real quickly. Here we are in Iowa, a little snowy Iowa, but that's fine. Pete Buttigieg's event going on right now. He has been polling fairly well in this state. There are different ways people are going to interpret who wins and who does well, popular vote, different delegate counts, and all the rest. He hopes to capitalize, showing either momentum or any one of those other aspects. We'll learn more from Iowa right after this.
Tonight, Connell McShane.
He wanted. We publish this information because we want to inform people. I don't know what impact, if any, this will have on any of the proceedings, but it does broaden, if true, our understanding of what happened.
It also certainly illustrates the fact that there is a lot that Bolton is claiming that the Senate has not heard about before, which we've known for a while because Bolton's lawyer has been saying that he knows about things that the Senate does not know and the Congress does not know. Maggie, this also would seem to contradict the idea claimed by one of the president's attorneys, Patrick Philbin, who, when asked about Rudy Giuliani and what he was doing, said that, quote, "I want to make clear that there was no conduct of foreign policy being carried out here by Giuliani," because what you're describing is a campaign that is including the national security advisor, although it doesn't sound like Bolton actually carried this out.
Right. And look, Jake, I should note here that Rudy Giuliani emphatically denied to Mike and me in a conversation that this conversation took place. He says that there was never a meeting that he had where he discussed Ukraine that Cipollone was present for, and that was also true for Mick Mulvaney. And I expect we will be hearing more from the White House as the day goes on. So I think this points to a couple of things, one of which is that Bolton clearly has a story he wants to tell. There's nothing precluding Bolton from coming out and speaking. And I think that's one of the things that has really frustrated Democrats and privately some Republicans, that if Bolton does want to say something, he probably can at this point, even as the White House is protesting that some of the information in his manuscript is classified.
Indeed, he could call in just the way you did. Great reporting, Maggie. Thank you so much.
I just want to add one point.
I'm just trying to show how easy it is. Yes.
Maggie and Michael Schmidt doing excellent reporting. It's Wolf. The second paragraph in your article, Maggie, says the president gave the instruction to Bolton, according to Bolton's manuscript, during an Oval Office conversation in early May that included, this is interesting, who was in that meeting, according to Bolton, the acting White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, and the White House counsel, Pat Cipollone. Mulvaney has said that whenever Giuliani was there, he would walk away because he didn't want to get an attorney-client privilege. Cipollone says he wasn't involved. He's leading the president's legal defense right now. The people in that Oval Office meeting, that's pretty significant if Bolton's account is true.
If it's true, correct. Well, if it is, but again, that's an important if. I mean, this is why, House. I know the president has said the House didn't call Bolton. It is true that they didn't go to court to get Bolton, but they did ask him to testify. Bolton declined. Bolton then signaled earlier this month that he would comply with a subpoena in the Senate. It seems likely that the Senate is not going to go for witnesses. I mean, this is why people who want witnesses are arguing that it would be important to get Bolton under oath. We should also know that the White House has argued that Bolton, who was often at odds with Mick Mulvaney and with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, that Bolton himself, was a disgruntled employee who left on bad terms and who they say has an axe to grind. Again, this is why the importance of being under oath matters. But there are all kinds of complications with Bolton testifying. It's not just the question of this manuscript. There are real executive privilege issues that I think you would hear the White House put in play. Right now, we have one person's account in a manuscript, and then we have, denials from one of the people involved. So we'll see what happens.
Maggie Haberman doing excellent reporting as she always does. Thank you very much. We're only moments away from the resumption of the Senate trial of the President of the United States. There'll be 4 hours of debate on the Senate floor, equally divided between both sides. And then we assume there'll be a final vote on witnesses. Much more of our special coverage right after this.
In 2 areas, and I think they can clearly do this. Does a United States Senator have the personal integrity to know what's right and wrong? Right? They are going to be able to distill the Blackburn.
Can I get back to you on that?
The Marsha Blackburn from the Lamar Alexander, right? The one who puts her head in the sand, or the one who's willing to say it was wrong. And then they also will be able to distill and judge, what do you do when you catch somebody in that situation? Right. Is there a punishment or not? Lamar Alexander says no.
Here's one more question I think that this piece puts into motion, for me at least. So Bolton was alone sort of internally, right? He was isolated internally because the meeting described in the Post is Cipollone, Rudy Giuliani, Mulvaney. They were all in on it. Nobody else was alarmed as far as we know. Mm-hmm. So when you read down the road that Senator Ron Johnson and Senator Portman were involved in trying to free up the aid, did Bolton call them and say, hey, I got a problem? In May, Trump ordered me to call Zelensky and say, work with Rudy Giuliani. They got Pompeo in on this. I mean, everyone's in on it. Did he use Sondland's language? I mean, was Sondland...
I would hate to be working as a security guard in the Capitol right now, because I'm pretty sure with tension being like it is, it's bound to be high drama. High drama just in the sense of people flourishing and coming and going and not knowing how people's reactions are going to be. You got multiple personalities, multiple attitudes. I would not want to be working for the Capitol security system today. I can just see the expressions on people's faces. That guy there saying peace. Peace. Good luck, buddy. We love you. We love you. Peace. Please. Let's keep this peaceful and orderly today. We don't want to see no breaches of security. Peace. You can look at the guy's expression on his face. It's like, wow, this is going to be one of them days, isn't it? Oh, yeah. You push enough buttons and eventually something will go off. Eventually the lid will come off of this thing. I know I'm laughing, trying to humor it up a little bit, but my God, have you ever seen the stress level so high? I guarantee you could take, if they had some sort of a monitor device that would register just the stress level in this hallway alone. Look at this poor guy. This guy's drinking his coffee with another guard right here. This guy here's going in, another guy looking down at his phone, a cop sitting there with his hand on his gun, right? If you had a measuring device that you could measure just the stress in this one area right here, it would probably top out at 100. You would probably hit all 5 bars. It's like peace. Please, let's have peace today. I guarantee you could feel the stress in there. You could feel the tension, the anxiety as it's growing and growing. I mean, I know it ain't funny. It's really sad in a way, but my God, you can tell by looking at people. It's so wondering if they ain't screaming and hollering and shoving each other, running out of there. I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Please, God, help us all. It's 1,000 wonders that we don't see total chaos. And in a way, we really are. Just the way that people are responding and reacting to this. It's like, my God, do I really have to endure another day of this? Another day of this endless wrangling. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This wrangling, back and forth and back and forth. It's just gut-wrenching. What is this one got to say? What is that one got to say? If you was to put them all in a bushel basket and shake them out, they'd all come out identically the same. Worried, distressful, wishing this was over. This is the chaos that our chief and commander has brought upon to the nation. My God, man, can't you see the devastation that you have caused? This ain't normal. People want to go back to their normal comfort life. They don't like this. All these people walking around with all these masks, all these guns, all these frowns. And then you got one idiot that's saying, love and peace, man. We gotta have peace, brother. Right? Jesus. Talk about high drama.